getting older sucks. None of us love it, none of us can escape it. As time goes on, we move right along with it, and some of the signs of aging are more subtle, while some are more immediate and obvious. I remember when I was 16, 17 years of age on the cross-country team, varsity cross-country team. One particular night, I stayed out maybe around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning with my friends, came home late at night or early in the morning, rather, and got up at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day to go run a 5K race for the team. So on virtually no sleep, probably hadn't had very healthy food the night before, very little water. I went out and ran the 5K race, and somehow managed to run a personal record of 16 minutes and 30 seconds for the 5K. And an hour later, after the race was finished, I felt fantastic. I felt like, you know what, good, I want more. I can go for another run. Let's do this. Now, at the age of 27, I can get a full night's rest, plenty of nourishment in my body, have a fantastic diet, be very well hydrated, go out and run just an average 5K run, maybe 20 minutes. I come home and my legs start screaming, "Oh, end it now, man! It's over! It's over! Just cut us off and get it over with, you jerk! Why would you do this to us?" So aging is not always subtle, to say the least. And those are some of the less clear, less obvious forms of aging. Some of them are a bit more pronounced. And that is one of the many reasons why many reasons I should say, why I find that so silly and rather distressful when so many people in our culture are saying, you know what, let's make sure that our young people wait until they're old and wrinkly before they consider getting married and having a family. I'm Zach Lindquist, and this is Back to the Basics of Love. Many of you have heard it before, don't even think about getting married until you're 30 or in your mid-30s or so on and so forth. Pretty soon they'll be saying, don't even think about having kids until you're 60. You think I'm joking, but we're heading in that direction. That's where the trend is running. But, I mean, this used to be just kind of a punchline in a joke in How I Met Your Mother. Barney Stinson tells Ted Mosby, you don't even think about getting married until you're in your 30s. Of course, this is coming from the famous Playboy who nobody ever listens to for good reason, because he's an inscrutable pervert. But still, people nowadays take this advice very, very seriously. Even many Christians today say, yeah, don't even seriously think about getting married and having kids until you have enough money and education, until you are perfectly well advanced in your job, whatever that means, until you have your entire life together. Don't think about bringing somebody else into it. Now, this is a very destructive line of reasoning for a lot of reasons. Number one, if your focus is on building up your own life and bringing somebody else into that life, think about that. You spend your entire life from the time you're 18 to the time, let's say, you're 32, by yourself, living alone, constructing your own single life, your own bachelor life, and then they try to bring somebody else into it. That's going to be significantly harder to do than getting married when you're, say, 20 and building that life with somebody else, because you've already learned to live in unison with that person. So that's number one. Number two, it's particularly dangerous to tell women to wait until they're in their 30s to get married. If you will permit me to be as politically incorrect as I usually am, all you ladies, look, if I can be perfectly frank with you, women generally tend to peak physically, as far as physical attractiveness goes, in their early 20s, maybe even as early as 18. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Men tend to have a little bit more leeway. I mean, when we're 18, 20 years old, most of us are still feeling the fallout from puberty. I mean, we still don't look that great. I know I didn't. But you women are gorgeous when you're young, so enjoy it while you can and take advantage of it. That's what I say. I know it's not popular to say anymore, but ladies, you should be taking advantage of your youthful beauty while you still have it to reel in the man you want to spend the rest of your life with. I'm not saying use your looks exclusively. I'm just saying it would behoove you to take advantage while you can. Because look, men, when they reach their 30s, they can probably get away with it, waiting until their 30s to get serious about getting married. I don't recommend it for them either, and I'll explain later. But men can probably get away with it because when men reach their 30s, most of them, not all of them, but most of them tend to dive back into the 20-year-old dating pool. Men tend to like younger women. I'm sorry, I'm not saying it's fair, I'm not saying it's necessarily right, I'm just telling you how it is. Men in their 30s tend to date women in their 20s. That's just how it is. Now, when women reach their 30s, let's say 30 to 35, they're not usually dating younger men. They're usually, and they're not even oftentimes dating men their own age. Oftentimes, the men who are dating women in their 30s tend to be men in their 40s, sometimes even their 50s. And by that time, those men have either been married and had children of their own, or have had a vasectomy or some such, and they're not interested in having children with this woman in her 30s. So if that woman wants to have a family, that's going to be a problem now. And that is assuming that you are one of the lucky women who can still have children in your 30s. By the time the average woman reaches the ages of 30 to 35, it is very difficult for said woman to conceive a child, assuming that she can't at all. It's very difficult once a woman reaches that age. They're reaching the end of their fertility window. The biological clock does not take forever. In case this is a revelation for you, it's much easier for a woman between the ages of, let's say, 18 to 24 to conceive than it is for a woman between the age of 29 and 35. The reason for that largely is that, if you really want to get into the biology of all of this, women who, by the time they reach the age of, let's say, 27 to 29, tend to have, on average, about 12% of their eggs remaining. And those, let's just say those are not the best eggs that their body had to begin with, because the body tends to use the strongest and healthiest eggs first. So it is healthier for the woman to try to start having a family early on in her 20s. That's the base level reason we're going with here. Additionally, those of you who think that it's a smart idea to wait until you're in your 30s to even consider getting married and starting a family, I'm wondering, how long do you think you're going to live? Seriously, this is a real question. How long do you think that you have to live to enjoy the time that you can with your family? Because if you're reaching your 30s, odds are you've been dating for quite a while, just for fun, just for the heck of it. And if you've been doing that, odds are you've not been necessarily sexually immoral throughout that whole time period. That's another problem with waiting so long to get married, is that your willpower will die off eventually if you're dating in your 20s without the intent of getting married. If you're just dating for the sake of dating, that's just stupid. But if you're waiting until your 30s to get married and you're hoping that, yeah, maybe I'll get married immediately now that I am slightly less attractive than I used to be, in some cases maybe more than slightly less attractive than I used to be, well, that's not a very foolproof plan now, is it? You would have had a much easier time getting married when you were younger and better looking, but now you've waited until you're 30, 32, 35, going on 40 to consider even trying. But, so, all I'm saying is that the plan to wait to get married, to try and attract a spouse until you are older and potentially less attractive, not very promising for a number of reasons. This is to say nothing of the baggage that you carry into a marriage when you make it your plan to get married when you're in your 30s. Because if you are both, let's say just for the sake of argument that you're both in your 30s by now, then you're both carrying the baggage of a lifetime apart into that marriage. You're both carrying a lifetime of living, let's say, alone, building your own lives separately, and trying to include one another into those lives simultaneously at the same time. You've built up your entire life by yourself. Gotten used to a certain way of living. You've gotten used to the bachelor life. You've gotten used to things being a certain way, and now you try to pull somebody else into that mess that you've created. And that doesn't usually go very well. If I'm being frank with you, it's a whole lot easier to try and build your life with somebody than it is to build your own life by yourself and try to include somebody in that life. It doesn't have a cookie cutter effect. It's not like Lego pieces fitting together. There is some chaos that ensues at that point. And again, while we're talking about baggage, if you have been dating throughout your entire 20s without the intent of getting married, I'm just going with the odds here. You have more than likely not been sexually pure in that time period. Am I right? So that is a lot of extra baggage that you are carrying into this fresh marriage of yours. All this sexual sin that has been building up that you are now carrying into this new marriage, which is destructive by itself. It can be eroding to any relationship. It's not that sexual sin beforehand can be completely debilitating and make it impossible for a marriage to work. It just makes it significantly more difficult for a marriage to work. And if your logic for waiting until you're more advanced in years before you get married is so that you can enjoy life, experience life before you. Does your life abruptly end before you have a wedding ceremony? Am I missing something here? Because I'm pretty sure my life did not abruptly come to a halt after I married my wife. I'm pretty sure it got significantly better, actually. All the same, I think one of the more recent arguments that I heard in terms of waiting to get married was that, you don't know who you are when you're in your 20s, and you have to learn to be able to take care of yourself, for that time. You have to spend 10 years learning how to just basically survive before you can bring somebody else in. I'm sorry. Am I missing something? Is it taking you guys from the age of 18 to 30 to learn how to just basically survive? And why can't you learn to take care of both yourself and somebody else? Why can't you learn to take care of each other as you grow together? I don't understand why that is out of the question. I mean, my wife and I got married pretty young. If it was up to me, I would have gotten married sooner. I didn't get married till I was 25. I was days away from turning 26. But I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing the logical thinking taking place here. This whole idea of extended adolescence, that you don't know yourself when you're in your 20s, so you need to continue behaving like a child until you're at least in your 30s. This is not good for society. This is part and parcel of the reason why our birth rates in this country, our replacement rates are continually dropping, because people are having children later and later in life. Our society cannot sustain itself this way. People continue to wait until they're older and older and older to start behaving like adults and try to have a family. And if they are able to conceive children, many of them find out that they can't. And many of those people who wanted to save up all this money before they got married, make sure that they had the best possible career before they got married, all of these people who lived that way are now spending all of that money that they saved and tried to accumulate before marriage and family. They're now spending all of that hard-earned money on fertility treatments or some manner of surrogacy. They're all spending that hard-earned fortune to try and have a baby that they could have had much easier and cheaper when they were in their 20s. And that's all I'm saying. This is not complicated, guys. And I'm sorry, knowing yourself, you don't... Forgive me. This whole idea, you don't know yourself when you're in your 20s. You can't possibly know yourself well enough to get married when you're 18, 20 years old. You can't possibly know who you are, and thus you cannot live with somebody else. That is a crock of crap. I'm sorry. First of all, you are never going to know yourself, because who you are now is never going to be who you are 10 years from now. Who I am now is not who I was 10 years ago. Who I am now is not who I am going to be 10 years from now. Who I am at 38 is not going to be who I am at 48. It's called life. It's called growing. It's called development. And ideally, you will be growing and developing alongside somebody who loves you, you know, somebody to do life with, rather than trying to do life by yourself and bring somebody else into that life, rather than trying to live life all by yourself and learning to be selfish so that you can bring somebody else into your selfish life and try to incorporate them into it. And on this previous note of having enough money to get married and have a family, I'm sorry, that's another crock of crap. Okay. First of all, the enough money, that number does not exist. Give me a number. Give me a number that you think you can reach when you have enough money to get married and have a life. Okay. Give me that number. I promise you, when you reach that number, it won't be enough. You will never have enough. Okay. It's that's not how life works. Look, when my wife and I got married, I was making maybe $35,000 a year if you factor in overtime. And we were not, I mean, we were pretty poor, but we were not starving. Okay? We got by just fine. And this is while I was helping to put her through nursing school. Okay, you can get married when you're broke. In fact, many times it makes the marriage stronger when you can live through that strife and learn to deal with it together. Learn to live through the hard times early, I say. That's a great strategy, if you ask me. It makes the marriage stronger. And and look, my wife and I still are not particularly wealthy, but we're not rich, and our marriage is not falling apart. Okay, and it's not going to, if I have anything to say about it. A lot of money does not a good marriage make. In fact, if you take a really bad marriage and introduce money to it, that marriage will fall apart quicker, I promise you. I will take a great marriage with no money over a terrible marriage with a bunch of money any day. Okay, I can talk to you about a lot of people I've met who've been very, very wealthy and their marriages fell apart. I can tell you about a lot of people who have very strong marriages who have never had any money. Okay, money is not the factor here. Money does not make a marriage. It can break a marriage if money is introduced to a very weak and flimsy marriage. That it can do, but it cannot make your marriage better. I promise you. And education. This is another one. How do you know when you've had enough education to get married? I'm sorry. Okay. First of all, if you're banking on education making your life better nowadays in 2022, might I suggest that you take just a glance at an institution of higher learning today? Just take a look at a college campus today and tell me if you think it's of your benefit to spend time there. First of all, I don't think that anyone's lives are going to be better from spending all that money for that crappy education. I went to college for 4 years. I have learned significantly more outside of school than I ever did in school. Okay, I promise you that. When I was in college, I was a complete dunce. The only difference between me and my peers is that when I left college, I didn't even graduate with a degree, but after I left college, the only difference between me and my peers is that I knew when I left college that I was dumber going in than I was coming out. And I continued to learn. I learned significantly more when I came out of college than I did going into college. But getting off of that tangent, I'm sorry. Education has never been the key to a happy and fulfilling marriage. I'm sorry. And if you think that you cannot be in school getting an education while you're married, newsflash, my wife, she was still in school when we got married. I helped to put her through school. And if anything, it made her time in school easier being married to me, having that support structure in place. Because I was very highly strung when I was single in college. I promise you. I am convinced that it's far less stressful to be married in college than it is to be single in college. There's a lot less pressure on you. When I was in college, all I was thinking about was women, okay? All I was thinking about was trying to find a girlfriend and find a wife because, well, there was a lot of angst in my teenage body, okay? Okay, it is a lot less stress to be married in school. That I promise you. And guess what? Students who are married, on average, tend to be far more successful in school than single students. Students who are married tend to get higher grades and graduate with higher honors. That's just a fact, statistically speaking. If you are married in school, you are statistically more likely to get better grades and to succeed, go far and beyond what the single students are doing. So no, getting an education before you get married is not a necessity. Okay, it never has been. Nor is having a bunch of money before you get married. Nor is being old enough to get married. I'm sorry, that's another crock. You are no less capable of marriage at 18 than you are at 30. I promise you. Although you are less apt at starting a family at 30 than you are at 18. That part is true. Physically speaking, you will age and your body will deteriorate and you will be less able to marry and have a family at 30 than you are at 18. That is a biological fact. Please, for the love of all that is good and holy in this world, if you are a Christian parent particularly, you need to stop telling your kids to wait to get married. You need to stop telling your kids, wait until you're 30, wait till you have enough money, wait until you're old enough, mature enough, wait till you have a great career before you get married and have a family. Stop telling your kids that if you care any bit at all about their sexual purity. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that is the biggest factor here. The longer that you tell your kids to wait to get married, the harder time they're going to have staying sexually pure. Many of them probably won't be sexually pure by the time they're 22 if you tell them to wait that long. Okay? The pressure is on. Okay? And I mean, you were young once. You know this. You understand this. Don't be stupid. If you care about your children's sexual morality, if you care about their purity, don't throw them into an impossible situation. Okay? Don't allow them to start dating at 15 and tell them not to get married until they're 30. That is not going to end well for them. Okay? They're going to be sexually active within a year if you let them start dating at 15, I promise you. I'm all for waiting to let your kids date until they're 17, but don't tell them that they can't get married when they're 18 and out of school. For goodness sake, please don't do that to them. Don't torture them like that. As soon as they're able to be out of your house, they should be allowed to get married. In fact, I would argue that it is highly encourageable to tell them to get married. Like, as soon as you can, get married as long as you make a good choice with your spouse. I mean, do the best you can. But we'll talk about that on another day. But parents, please, if you care about your children, if you care about their virtue, if you care about their living life in a godly way, do not tell them that they shouldn't get married. That is the worst thing you can do. Especially if it is for the sake of more money or a better career. Not only is that an apocryphal statement to say that more money equals better marriage, but it is ungodly to say that they should sacrifice their purity for the sake of money. Parents, religious leaders, church leaders, please help me out here. If we love our young people, they gotta start getting married sooner. They gotta start having babies sooner. They gotta start making families. This is gonna happen so that we can breathe the next generation of Christians, so that we can breathe the next generation of just this nation, because our nation's population is on the decline because we are not having children. We're not. I mean, the nuclear family is dying out because of stuff like this that I'm talking about. People are waiting to have kids. People are waiting to get married and have kids. People are waiting to just be adults. And oftentimes, by the time they try to be adults and have a family, it's too late. Please, let us encourage our kids to be fruitful and multiply, to marry, to do life right, to get married as soon as they reasonably can, and have children, have a family, and raise the next generation of godly people. This is my hope for Christians all over the world. This is my hope for America. This is my hope for the world, that we have more Christians running around, more Christian babies running around. And on that very cheerful note of many more Christian babies running around, I'm Zach Lindquist. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe so you can get even more of this radical content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And I promise you, all my answers are guaranteed to be 100% correct or your money back. And you might be saying, but Zach, I'm not giving you any money. Exactly. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I'm Zach Lindquist. Have a wonderful day and God bless you.